And it says, Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who was extremely affectionate to his devotees, was very pleased by the prayers offered by Daksha, and thus he appeared at that holy place known as Aghamar Sun. O Maharaj Parikshit, guest of the Kuru dynasty, the Lord's lotus feet rested on the shoulders of his carrier Garuda, and he appeared with 8 long, mighty, very beautiful arms. In his hands he held a disc, conch shell, sword, shield, arrow, bow, rope, and club. In each hand a different weapon, all brilliantly shining. His garments were yellow, and his bodily hue deep bluish. His eyes and face were very cheerful, and from his neck to his feet hung a long garland of flowers. His chest was decorated with the Kaustuva jewel, and the mark of Sri Vatsa. On his head was a gorgeous round helmet, and his ears were decorated with earrings resembling sharks. All these ornaments were uncommonly beautiful. The Lord wore a golden belt on his waist, bracelets on his arms, rings on his fingers, and ankle bells on his feet. Thus, decorated by various ornaments, Lord Hari, who is attractive to all the living entities of the 3 worlds, is known as Purushottama, the best personality. He was accompanied by great devotees like Narada, Nanda, and all the principal demigods, led by the heavenly king Indra, and the residents of various upper planetary systems such as Sivaloka, Gandharvaloka, and Charanaloka, situated on both sides of the Lord and behind him as well. These devotees offered him prayers continuously. Text number 40. Seeing that the wonderful and effulgent form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prajapati Daksha was first somewhat afraid, but then he was very pleased to see the Lord, and he fell to the ground like a stick, or in other words, he did Dandavat to offer his respects to the Lord. Text 41. As rivers filled by water flowing from a mountain, all of Daksha's senses were filled with pleasure. Because of his highly elevated happiness, Daksha could not say anything, but simply remained flat on the ground. Purport of Srila Prabhupada. When one actually realizes or sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is filled with complete happiness. For example, when Dhruva Maharaj saw the Lord in his presence, he said, Swamin Kitartosmi Varam Na Yache. My dear Lord, I have nothing to ask from you. Now I am completely satisfied. Similarly, when Prajapati Daksha saw the Supreme Lord in his presence, he simply fell flat, unable to speak or ask him for anything. Text 42. Although Prajapati Daksha could not say anything, when the Lord, who knows everyone's heart, saw his devotee prostrate in that manner, and desiring to increase the population, he addressed him as follows. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, right? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O most fortunate Prachetas, because of your great faith in me, you have attained the supreme devotional ecstasy. Indeed, because of your austerities combined with exalted devotion, your life is now successful. You have achieved complete perfection. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As the Lord Himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 8.15, one reaches the highest perfection when he attains the fortune of realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, 1 second. Text 40, and it continues. Mam upetya punarjanma dukalayam asasvatam na punuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. After attaining me, the great souls, who are yogis in devotion, never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Therefore, in the Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement teaches one to follow the path toward the topmost perfection simply by performing devotional service. Well, that makes sense. Text 44. My dear Prajapati Daksha, you have performed extreme austerities for the welfare and growth of the world. My desire also is that everyone within this world be happy. I am therefore very pleased with you because you are endeavoring to fulfill my desire for the welfare of the entire world. That's a very nice statement. After every dissolution of the material cosmos, all the living entities take shelter in the body of Karanadaksha Vishnu. And when creation takes place, again, they come out, they come forth from his body in their various various species to resume their activities. Why does the creation take place in such a way that the living entities are put into conditioned life to suffer the threefold miseries imposed upon them by the material nature? Here the Lord says to Daksha, you desire to benefit from all living entities, and that is also my desire. The living entities who come in contact with the material world are meant to be corrected. All the living entities within the material world have revolted against the service of the Lord. Therefore, they remain within the material world as ever conditioned, Nityabhada, taking birth again and again. There is a chance, of course, of their being liberated, but nevertheless, the conditioned souls, second, the conditioned souls not taking advantage of this opportunity continue in a life of sense enjoyment, and thus they are punished by birth and death again and again. This is the law of nature. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Daivihi esa gunamayi maya mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayamitam tarantate. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, the Lord says, Mamaevam so jivaloke jivabuta sanatana malaksastan indriyani prakriti stani karsati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entities struggle for existence within the material world. The living entity's struggle for existence within the material world is due to his rebellious nature. Unless a living entity surrenders to Krishna, he must continue this life of struggle. The Krishna consciousness movement is not a fad. A fad is something that lasts for a short period of time and then it disappears. The Krishna consciousness movement is not a fad. It is a bona fide movement intended to promote the welfare of all conditioned souls by trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. If one does not come to this platform, he must continue in material existence perpetually, sometimes in the upper planets and sometimes in the lower planets, as confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 20.118. Kabu Swarge Utaya, Kabu Narake Dubaya. The conditioned soul sometimes descends into nations and sometimes gets some relief by being relatively freed from it. This is the life of the conditioned soul. That's not real life. That's misery. Prajapati Daksha is trying to befit the conditioned souls. Is trying to benefit the conditioned souls by begetting them to give to give them a life with a chance for liberation. Liberation means surrender to Krishna. If one begets children with the purpose of training them to surrender to Krishna, fatherhood is very good. Similarly, when the spiritual master trains the conditioned souls to become Krishna conscious, his position is successful. If one gives the conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious, all his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased. As stated here, Prito Hum, following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. Such activities constitute real welfare work. By such activities, a preacher or anyone who endeavors to spread Krishna consciousness is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord Himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 18.68 to 69. Ya idam paramam gulyam madbhaktesh tu abhidasyate bhaktim mayi param kritva mam evaisyate asamsaya. Na chatasman manusyesu kaschit me priyakritama bhavita na chame tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret to devotees, devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Well, there we are. If you want the mercy of the Lord, then we should be qualified to preach Krishna consciousness and help people come to the position of being devotees and engaged in devotional service. Then it is guaranteed that at the end, such a devotee will come back to Godhead, will go back to Godhead. And it says, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So, the devotee that preaches Krishna consciousness and helps others become Krishna conscious becomes very endeared and very, let's say, dedicated to Krishna. Text 45. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Manus, all the other demigods in the higher planetary systems, and you, Prajapatis, who are increasing the population, are working for the benefit of all living entities. Thus, thus your expansions of my
I think your expansion.
yeah, you are. Yeah, that's a mistake. Thus, your expansions of my marginal energy are incarnations of my various qualities. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are various types of incarnations or expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The expansions of His personal self, or Vishnu Tattva, are called Swamsa expansions, whereas the living entities who are not Vishnu Tattva but Jiva Tattva are called Vivinamsa, separated expansions. Although Prajapati Daksha is not on the same level as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, he is compared to them because he engages in the service of the Lord. In the service of the personality of Godhead, it is not that Lord Brahma is considered very great, while an ordinary human being trying to preach the glories of the Lord is considered very low. No, it's not like that. There are no such distinctions, regardless of whether materially high or materially low. Anyone engaged in the service of the Lord is spiritually very dear to him. Ah, wonderful statement. In this regard, Sri Madhvacharya gives this quotation from the Tantra Nirnaya. Vishesha Vyakti Patra Vad Brahma Dyas tu Vibhutaya Tad Antarya Minas Chaiva Matsyadya Vibhava Smita. From Lord Brahma down, all the living entities engaged in the service of the Lord are extraordinary and are called vibhuti, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:41. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam srimad urjitam eva tat tat eva gacha tvam mama tejo misha sambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. A living entity especially empowered to act on behalf of the Lord is called Vibhuti, whereas the Vishnu Tattva incarnations of the Lord, such as Matsya Avatar, Keshava, Drita, Mina, Sarira, Jaya, Jagadisha, Hare, are called Vibhava. So there's Vibhuti and Vibhava. Text 46. Second, fix this. My dear Brahmins, austerity in the form of meditation is my heart. Vedic knowledge in the form of hymns and mantras constitute my body. And spiritual activities and ecstatic emotions are my actual form. The ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices, when properly conducted, are the various limbs of my body. The unseen good fortune proceeding from pious or spiritual activities constitutes my mind, and the demigods who execute my orders in various departments are my life and soul. Okay, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Sometimes atheists argue that since God is invisible to their eyes, they do not believe in God. For them, the Supreme Lord is describing a method by which one can see God in his impersonal form. Intelligent persons can see God in his personal form, as stated in the Shastras. But if one is very eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately, face to face, he can see the Supreme Lord through his description, which portrays the various internal and external parts of his body. Okay, so you can see the Lord face to face because one is eager to see the Lord. That is a what you would call secret knowledge. To engage in tapasya or denial of material activities is the first principle of spiritual life. Then there are spiritual activities, such as the performance of Vedic ritualistic sacrifice, study of the Vedic knowledge, meditation upon the Supreme Personality of God, and chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There it is. One should also respect the demigods and understand how they are situated, how they act, and how they manage the activities of the various departments of this material world. In this way, one can see how God is existing and how everything is managed perfectly because of the presence of the Supreme Lord. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, Maya Dakshina Pakriti, Suyatesa Characharan, Etananena Kuntanya, Jagat Viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non moving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. If one is unable to see the Supreme Lord, although he is present as Krishna in his various incarnations, one may see the Supreme Lord's impersonal feature, according to the direction of the Vedas, by seeing the activities of material nature. Anything done under the direction of the Vedic injunctions is called dharma, as described by the order carriers of Yamaraja, Bhagavatam 6.1.40. Veda Pani Ito Dharma Hi Adharmastad Viparyaya Vedo Narayana Sakshat Swayambur Iti Susrama. That which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes Dharma, the religious principles, and the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, and are self-born. This we have heard from Yamaraja. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya comments, Tapo Vimani Rudrastu Vishnor Hridayam Asrita Vidya Rupa Ta I Voma Vishnu's Tanam Upasrita Shringadi Akrita Gata Kriyatma Paka Sasana Agesu Kratava Sarve Madhya Dehe Chidharma Rat Prano Vayus Chita Gato Brahmadya Svesu Devata. The various demigods are all acting under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And according to their various actions, the demigods are differently named. Text number 47. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, I alone, meaning Krishna, I alone existed with my special spiritual potencies. Consciousness was then unmanifested, just as one's consciousness is unmanifested during the time of sleep. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The word aham indicates a person. As explained in the Vedas, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Lord is the supreme eternal among innumerable eternals, and the supreme living being among the innumerable living beings. The Lord is a person who also has impersonal features, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnam advayam Rameti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Consideration of the Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman arose after the creation. Before the creation, only the Supreme Personality Godhead existed. As firmly declared in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, the Lord can be understood only by bhakti yoga. The ultimate cause, the supreme cause of creation, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can be understood only by bhakti yoga. He cannot be understood by speculative philosophical research or by meditation, since all such processes came into existence after the material creation. Well, that means that they are subjected to material creation. The impersonal and localized conceptions of the Supreme Lord are more or less materially contaminated. The real spiritual process, therefore, is bhakti yoga. As the Lord says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati, only by devotional service can I be understood. Before the creation, the Lord existed as a person, as indicated here by the word aham. When Prajapati Daksha saw him as a person who was beautifully dressed and ornamented, he actually experienced the meaning of the word aham through devotional service. Each person is eternal because the Lord says that he existed as a person before the creation, agre, and will also exist after the annihilation. The Lord is a person eternally. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura therefore quotes these verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9, 13-14. Nakantarna bahiryasya na purvam na pichaparam purva param bahischantar jagato yo jagatchaya tam matva tamajam avyaktam martya lingam adhoksajam gopi ko lu kale dama babanda pakritam yata. The personality of Godhead appeared in Vrindavana as the son of Mother Yasoda, who bound the Lord with rope, just as an ordinary mother binds a material child. There are actually no divisions of external there are no divisions of external and internal for the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sat Chitananda Vigraha. But when he appears in his own form, the unintelligent think him an ordinary person. Avajanantimam mudha manasintanam asritam. Although he comes in his own body, which never changes, mudhas, the unintelligent, think that the impersonal Brahman has assumed a material body to come in the form of a person. And well, they don't understand that the form of the Lord is eternal. Ordinary living beings assume material bodies, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not. Yet they don't change the body. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Consciousness, it is stated herein that Samgyana Matram, the original consciousness, Krishna consciousness, was unmanifested before the creation. Although the consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of everything. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 2.12, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Thus, the Lord's person is the absolute truth in the past, the present, and the future. In this regard, Madhvacharya quotes two verses from the Matsya Purana. Nana Varno Harishkle Ko Bahu Shrisa Dujo Rupat Asil Baye Tat Anyatu Sukshma Rupam Sriyam Vina Asukta Sukta Ivaja Militaksho Bhaved Hari Dari Anyatran A Darad Vishnu Sris Evacha Lin Eva Katyate Sukshmat Vena Haro Stalanal Linam Anyad Apisyate. After the annihilation of everything, the Supreme Lord becomes the Satchit Ananda Vigraha, remains in his original form, but since the other living entities have material bodies, the matter merges into matter, and the subtle form of the spirit soul remains within the body of the Lord. The Lord does not sleep, but the ordinary living entities remain asleep until the next creation. An unintelligent person thinks that the opulence of the Supreme Lord is non existent after the annihilations, but that is not a fact. The opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains as it is in the spiritual world only in uh, uh, remains as it is in the spiritual world. Only in the material world is everything dissolved. Rama Lina, merging into the Supreme Brahman, is not actual Lina or annihilation. For the subtle form remaining in the Brahmani effulgence will return to the material world after the material creation and again assume a material form. This is described as Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. When the material body is annihilated, the spirit soul remains in a subtle form, which later assumes another material body. This is true for the conditioned souls, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains eternally in his original consciousness and spiritual body. Text 48. Mayi ananta gune inanta anante gunato guna vigraha yada sit tata eva ya swayambhu samabud aja. I am the reservoir of unlimited potency, and therefore I am known as unlimited or all-pervading. From my material energy, the cosmic manifestation appeared within me, and in this universal manifestation appeared the chief being, Lord Brahma, who is your source and is not born of the material mother. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is a description of the history of the universal creation. The first cause is the Lord himself, the Supreme Person. From him, Brahma is created, and Brahma takes charge of the affairs of the universe. The universal affairs of material creation depend upon the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is therefore the cause of the material creation. The entire cosmic manifestation is described herein as Guna Vigraha, the form of the Lord's qualities. From the cosmic universal form, the first creation is Lord Brahma, who is the cause of all living entities. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya describes the unlimited attributes of the Lord. Prati ekasa gunanam tu ni simvatam udir yate tada nantyam tu gunatas te chananta hi sankyaya ato guno vishnu gunato nanta evacha. Parashaktir vividaiva shruyate. The Lord has innumerable potencies, all of which are unlimited. Therefore, the Lord himself and all his qualities, forms, pastimes, and paraphernalia are also unlimited. Because Lord Vishnu has unlimited attributes, he is known as Ananta. Text 49 and 50. Savayada Mahadevo Mama Virya Primita Mene Kilam Iva Manam Udyata Swarga Karmani Ata Me Vihito Devas Tapo Tapyata Dharunam Naiva Vishwa Srijo Yusman Yenaidav Rijad Vibhu. When the chief lord of the universe, Lord Brahma, or Swayambhu, having been inspired by my energy, was attempting to create, he thought himself incapable. Therefore, I gave him advice, and in accordance with my instructions, he underwent extremely difficult austerities. Because of these austerities, the great Lord Brahma was able to create 9 personalities, including you, to help him in the functions of creation. Purport: nothing is possible without tapasya. Now that's a nice statement. Nothing is possible without tapasya. Tapasya means engaging in activities of devotional service and being very, let's say, very involved in engaged and very involved in devotional service. Lord Brahma, however, was empowered to create this entire universe because of his austerity. The more we engage in austerities, the more we become powerful by the grace of the Lord. Well, the what you call austerities of a devotee today are in the term is uh, having nice prasadam, engaging in devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna, going on Sankirtan, etc. It's not living in in a closet and meditating. Therefore, Rishabhadeva advised his sons, Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam sudaya. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified. In our material existence, we are impure, and therefore we cannot do anything wonderful. But if we purify our existence by tapasya, we can do wonderful things by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, tapasya is very important, as stressed in this verse. Okay, but what does he mean by tapasya? Well, it's usually, traditionally, someone goes in a private place and begins to meditate. But the tapasya of a devotee is different. The devotee's tapasya is always engaged in service, engaged in offering service to Krishna with love and devotion. That is real tapasya. Text 51. My dear Lord, my dear son Daksha, Prajapati Panchajana has a daughter named Asini, whom I offer to you so that you may accept her as your wife. Now unite in sexual life as man and woman, and in this way, by sexual intercourse, you will be able to beget hundreds of children in the womb of this girl to increase the population. Wow, that poor girl. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.11, Dharma virudo bhutesu kamosmi. I am sex that is not contrary to religious principles. Sexual intercourse ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is dharma, a religious principle, but it is not intended for sense enjoyment. Indulgence in sense enjoyment through sexual intercourse is not allowed by the Vedic principles. Okay, there it is. Very clear statement. One may follow the natural tendency for sex life only to beget children. Therefore, the Lord told Daksha in this verse, this girl is offered to you only for sex life to beget children, not for any other purpose. She is very fertile, and therefore you will be able to have as many children as you can beget. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that Daksha was given a facility for unlimited sexual intercourse. But in the course of performing sacrifices, he was also known as Daksha. Oh, I'm sorry. But in the course of performing sacrifices, he offended the Lord Shiva. Now that's a bad thing to do. And thus his head was replaced with that of a goat. Yeah, he had his head cut off. And then later, he put a goat's head on. Then Daksha gave up his life because of his degraded condition, but because he maintained the same unlimited sexual desires, he underwent austerities by which he satisfied the Supreme Lord, who then gave him unlimited potency for sexual intercourse. Oh, that's interesting. It should be noted that although such a facility for sexual intercourse is achieved by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this faculty is not offered to advanced devotees. Well, I hope not. Who are free from material desires. Anyabhilasita sunyam. In its connection, it may be noted that if the American boys and girls engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement want to advance in Krishna consciousness to achieve the supreme benefit of loving service to the Lord, they should refrain from indulging in this facility for sex life. Yeah, devotional service of the devotees is not meant to have unlimited sex life and unlimited children. Therefore, we advise that one should at least refrain from illicit sex. Even if there are opportunities for sex life, one should voluntarily accept the limitation of having sex only for progeny, only for producing children, not for any other purpose. In other words, sex is not for enjoying, uh, it's for only procreating children. Kardama Muni was also given a facility for sex life, but he had only a slight desire for it. Therefore, after begetting children in the womb of Devabhuti, Kardama Muni became completely renowned. The purport is that if one wants to return back home, back to Godhead, one should voluntarily refrain from sex life. Sex should be accepted only as much as needed, not unlimitedly. One should not think that Daksha received the favor of the Lord by receiving the facilities for unlimited sex. Later verses will reveal that Daksha again committed an offense, this time at the lotus feet of Narada. Oh, that's bad. Therefore, although sex life is the topmost enjoyment in the material world, and although one may have an opportunity for sexual enjoyment by the grace of God, this entails a risk of committing offenses. Daksha was open to such offenses, and therefore, strictly speaking, he was not actually favored by the Supreme Lord. One should not seek the favor of the Lord for unlimited potency in sex life. There it is. A very important statement. Text 53. After you give birth to many hundreds and thousands of children, they will all be captivated by my illusory energy and will engage, like you, in sexual intercourse. But because of my mercy, you and them they will also be able to give me presentations in devotion. Well, that's good. Sukadeva Goswami continues, after the creator of the entire universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, had spoken in this way in the presence of Prajapati Daksha. He immediately disappeared as if he were an object experienced in a dream. Thus end the Bhaktivinoda purports of the sixth canto, fourth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Hamsa Guhya Prayers Offered to the Lord by Prajapati Daksha. Okay, my dear devotees, now we go on to chapter 5. Narada Muni, cursed by Prajapati Daksha. This chapter relates how all sons of Daksha were delivered from the clutches of the material energy by following the advice of Narada, who was therefore cursed by Daksha. Yeah, Narada convinced all the young boys of Daksha to take up Krishna consciousness and not get married and have children. And it got Daksha really upset. Influenced by the external energy of Lord Vishnu, Prajapati Daksha begot 10,000 sons in the womb of his wife, Panchajani. 10,000 sons. And just imagine how powerful he is. These sons, who were all of the same character and mentality, were known as Haryaswas, ordered by their father to create more and more population. The Haryaswas went west to a place where the river Sindhu, now the Indus, meets the Arabian Sea. In those days, this was the site of a holy lake named Narayana Saras, where there were many saintly persons. The Haryaswas began practicing austerities, penances, and meditation, which are the engagements of the highly exalted, renounced order of life. However, when Srila Narada Muni saw these boys engaged in such commendable austerities simply for material creation, he thought it better to release them from this tendency. Okay, well, Daksha is not going to be happy for that. Narada Muni described to the boys their ultimate goal of life and advised them not to become ordinary karmis to beget children. Thus, all the sons of Daksha became enlightened and left, never to return. Oh boy, let's see what Daksha is going to do. Prajapati Daksha, who was very sad at the loss of his sons, begot 1,000 more sons in the womb of his wife, Panchajani, and ordered them to increase progeny. These sons, who were named the Savalasvas, also engaged in worshiping Lord Vishnu to beget children. But Narada Muni convinced them to become mendicants and not beget children. Foiled twice in his attempts to increase population, Prajapati Daksha became most angry at Narada Muni and cursed him, saying that in the future he would not be able to stay anywhere. Yeah, only 3 days, that was it. Since Narada Muni, being fully qualified, was fixed in tolerance, he accepted Daksha's curse. Wow. Okay, text number 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, impelled by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu. Prajapati Daksha begot 10,000 sons in the womb of Panchajani or Asikni. By my dear king, these sons were called the Haryasvas. Text 2. My dear king, I think time is up, huh?
Yeah, just about time. Yeah,
What's that?
it's 7:34.
Okay, so time is up, right?
We can maybe go up to 7:45. Another 5 minutes.
Text 2. My dear king, all the sons of Prajapati Daksha were alike in being very gentle and obedient to the orders of their father. When their father ordered them to beget children, they all went in the western direction. In the west, where the river Sindhu meets the sea, there is a great place of pilgrimage known as Narayana Saras. Many sages and others advanced in spiritual consciousness live there. Text 4 and 5. In that holy place, Harivilas began regularly touching the lake's waters and bathing in them. Gradually becoming very much purified, they became inclined toward the activities of Paramahamsas. Nevertheless, because their father had ordered them to increase the population, they performed severe austerities to fulfill his desires. One day, when the great sage Narada saw those boys performing such fine austerities to increase the population, Narada approached them. Okay, let's see what Narada is going to say. He already convinced the previous group of devotees to not get married and to leave the whole process of having a lot of children. The great sage Narada said, "My dear Harivilas, you have not seen the extremities of the earth. There is a kingdom where only one man lives, and where there is a hole from which, having entered, no one emerges. A woman there who is extremely unchaste adorns herself with various attractive dresses, and the man who lives there is her husband. In that kingdom, there is a river flowing in both directions, a wonderful home made of 25 materials, a swan that vibrates various sounds, and an automatically revolving object made of sharp razors and thunderbolts. You have not seen all this, and therefore you are inexperienced boys without advanced knowledge. How then will you create progeny? Good, question. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Narada Muni saw that the boys known as the Harivilas were already purified because of living in that holy place and were practically ready for liberation. Yes, but why should they get married and have children and a wife and so forth? Why then should they be encouraged to become entangled in family life, which is so dark that once having entered it, one cannot leave it? Through this analogy, Narada Muni asked them to consider why they should follow their father's order to be entangled in family life. So already previously, Narada Muni convinced a whole group of young boys not to get married, not to have children, and to just be sadhus. Narada Muni asked them to consider why they should follow their father's order to be entangled in family life. Indirectly, he asked them to find within the cores of their hearts the situation of the Supreme, the Supersoul, Lord Vishnu. For then they would truly be experienced. In other words, one who is too involved in his material environment and does not look within the core of his heart is increasingly entangled in the illusory energy. Narada Muni's purpose was to get the sons of Prajapati Daksha to divert their attention toward spiritual realization. Okay, so that's it's to divert their attention toward spiritual realization instead of involving themselves in the ordinary but complicated affairs of propagation, meaning having sex and family and wives and so forth. The same advice was given by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, Hiranyakashipu. Tat sadumanye sura varya dehinam sada samudrina diyam asad grihat. Hitvatma patam griham andakupam vanam gato yad darim asrayeta. In the dark well of family life, one is always full of anxiety because of having accepted a temporary body. If one wants to free himself from this anxiety, one should immediately leave family life. Whoa. And take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Narada Muni advised the Harivilas not to enter household life, since they were already advanced in spiritual knowledge. Why should they be entangled in that way?
I think we can pause here.
Text number 9.
Do you want to continue or do you want to pause here?
No, we'll stop right there. That's
Okay.
good to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Our takeaway for today is okay, so it says Narada Muni saw that the boys known as the Harivilas were already purified because of living in that holy place and were practically ready for liberation. Why then should they be encouraged to become entangled in family life, which is so dark that once having entered it, one cannot leave it?
Mm-hmm.
Through this analogy, Narada Muni asked them to consider why they should follow their father's order to be entangled in family life. Indirectly, he asked them to find within the cores of their hearts the situation of the Supersoul, Lord Vishnu. For then they would truly be experienced. In other words, one who is too involved in his material environment and does not look within the core of his heart is increasingly entangled in the illusory energy. Narada Muni's purpose was to get the sons of Prajapati Daksha to divert their attention towards spiritual realization instead of involving themselves in the ordinary but complicated affairs of propagation. So instead of um, well, basically, Narada Muni did not want to see these young boys divert their attention towards spiritual realization. No, he did not. Let's see, wait. He wanted to divert their attention towards spiritual realization instead of involving them in the ordinary but complicated affairs of propagation. The same advice was given by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, Hiranyakashipu. And the dark well of family life is always full of anxiety because of having accepted a temporary body. If one wants to free himself from this anxiety, one should immediately leave family life and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Narada Muni advised the Harivilas not to enter household life, since they were already advanced in spiritual knowledge. Why should they be entangled in that way? Okay, my dear devotees, that is our takeaway. So, if one is already advanced in spiritual knowledge, why should we be entangled in getting married and having children with a wife. It's better to give it up and just have a spiritual life and quickly go back to Godhead. And Narada Muni, he pictures the family life as a dark well. As a dark well, and one is always full of anxiety because of having accepted a temporary body. If one wants to free himself from this anxiety, one should immediately leave family life and take shelter of the Supreme Personality Godhead in Vrindavana. Narada Muni advised the Harivilas not to enter household life, since they were already advanced in spiritual knowledge. Why should they be entangled in that way? Wow. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is going to scare all the women.
Okay.
But there's nothing wrong with getting married. Like Srila Prabhupada was married. He had 5 children. Right? But when the time was, let's say, correct, or when the time was for him to take sannyas, he hesitated a little bit, but then he went ahead and took sannyas, and look at all the good he did in the world. Okay, he did say that he didn't want to be a sannyas, but he accepted that responsibility, and look all the good that he did. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.